From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is the News Blast for this hour. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled today in favor of Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for trans youth in the case of U.S. v. Skrmetti. It was a 6-3 decision with the court's Republican appointees opposing trans rights and the Democratic appointees supporting trans rights. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the opinion for the majority, and Justices Sonia, Sotomayor, Elena, Kagan wrote dissenting opinions, in which Ketanji Brown Jackson joined. Justices Amy Coney Barrett, Samuel Alito, and Clarence Thomas wrote concurring opinions. The ruling says that Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care does not discriminate on the basis of sex or transgender status, which the plaintiffs argued made it unconstitutional under the Equal Protection Clause. The ruling will allow the 25 states that currently have such bans on the books to continue to enforce them. Skrmetti concerns 3 families of transgender youth as well as a doctor who argued that they're victims of Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for minors. They argued that they were being deprived of essential medical care on the basis of their sex, since the gender-affirming care ban only bans such care for trans youth. For example, a teen boy who wants surgery to remove his breasts in order to be treated like and feel more like a boy can get it under the Tennessee law, but only if he was assigned male at birth. The families and doctor sued with help from the ACLU. ACLU attorney Chase Strangio argued the case at the Supreme Court and was the first trans lawyer to do so. Roberts, in the majority opinion, wrote that the law doesn't discriminate on the basis of sex or on the basis of transgender status, saying that it only makes distinctions based on a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. That is the same definition of trans identity that the Trump administration is using for the trans military ban, which also bars people with symptoms consistent with gender dysphoria from joining the military, even if they don't have a formal diagnosis. In her dissenting opinion, Sotomayor accused the conservative majority of refusing to call a spade because they wouldn't admit that the law determines access to the covered medications based on the sex of the recipient. She warned that the ruling does irrevocable damage to the Equal Protection Clause and invites legislatures to engage in discrimination by hiding blatant sex classifications in plain sight. I can't begin to tell you just how incredibly effed up trans people are here, wrote out trans clinical instructor at the Harvard Law School Cyber Law Clinic, Alejandro Caraballo, on Blue Sky. This will pour gasoline on the Trump administration's attacks on trans people, and they will get even harsher, and more cruel. The Supreme Court is greenlighting the eradication of trans people from society. She wrote that discriminating against people with gender dysphoria was upheld as constitutional in the decision, which could be used for other forms of discrimination. For instance, they could strip everyone with gender dysphoria of security clearance in the government, declare everyone with gender dysphoria a national security threat, and purge them from the government entirely. The trans military ban will be upheld under this. Most importantly, states can now ban gender-affirming care for everyone, including adults. We'll likely see that coming soon, in addition to federal government efforts to eliminate access for all trans people. Today's ruling is a devastating loss for transgender people, our families, and everyone who cares about the Constitution, said the ACLU's Strangio in a press release. Though this is a painful setback, it does not mean that transgender people and our allies are left with no options to defend our freedom, our health care, or our lives. The court left undisturbed Supreme Court and lower court precedent that other examples of discrimination against transgender people are unlawful. We are as determined as ever to fight for the dignity and equality of every transgender person, and we will continue to do so with defiant strength, a restless resolve, and a lasting commitment to our families, our communities, and the freedom we all deserve. This is a heartbreaking ruling, making it more difficult for transgender youth to escape the danger and trauma of being denied their ability to live and thrive, said Sasha Burchett Buchert of Lambda Legal. But we will continue to fight fiercely to protect them. Make no mistake, gender-affirming care is often life-saving care, and all major medical associations have determined it to be safe, appropriate, and effective. This is a sad day, and the implications will reverberate for years and across the country, but it does not shake our resolve to continue fighting. The story was originally published in LGBTQ Nation. Folks, we live in very dangerous times. The federal government has shown total and irreparable disregard for the transgender community. The overall LGBTQ plus community is under attack. While the U.S. Supreme Court ruling is only one step on a long path toward rolling back rights for the LGBTQ plus community, the overall attack has been an organized, ongoing, and determined assault. We must keep our heads held high and continue to work toward a more just and affirming society. Future generations are counting on us to lift our voices and never surrender. That's the News Blast for this hour. We'll be covering more stories tomorrow. For now, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.